Hey friends, welcome back to my channel. Today we're doing something a little bit different because we're not diving into all those boring lens stats. Those statistics you can find on Google. And today I'm showing you a little bit different. Today I'm bringing you all the amazing visuals from the Canon RF, the 85mm, the 1.2, the USM. I'm not going to hit you with too much of that technical mumbo jumbo, but we're going to get real in detail with photo samples that I've taken over the last few years that will give you a clear idea and feel for this lens. So whether you're sipping on coffee or multitasking like a pro, get ready to soak in the goodness this lens has to offer. We're not just talking about gear, we're talking about the magical moments that it helps capture. It's like secret sauce for your galleries. So make yourself comfortable and see the vibes you can create with this beautiful lens. Hey friend, my name is Kate Patterson, your wedding and portrait photographer turned photography business coach. I'm stoked to be here with you today. And if you haven't already, hit that subscribe button so we can hang out more often. Now let's jump into today's video. This is a big investment for a lens, running in at $3,500. Obviously depends on your country as to where that really hits on that price point. When I purchased this lens, I wanted to make sure it's going to be the right one for me. As a wedding photographer, I need not only the long focal length throughout a wedding day, but also something that can handle the low light situations. We're faced with it throughout the whole reception, the wedding day, the ceremony, and you really need to, especially in a reception, to really maintain that ambiance as long as possible. As soon as you add in your flash to your images, it will change the style of your photos you capture. So I like to keep it off, like my flash off, as long as humanly possible. And truly, this is where this 85mm 1.2 really shines without losing the quality of those images. I will also show you in some of my sample images what you have to be really careful with, especially when you're photographing at that 1.2. I'm going to show you a variety of images today that will give you an idea of what this lens is really capable of. We're going to look at the outdoor locations, bright daylight, all the way through to sunset, and also indoor wedding receptions. So we're going to start off. I'm going to take you through some of my photos that I've handpicked to give you an idea as to really what this lens can capture. We're going to start off with general sessions to start with, and then I'm going to work my way into some wedding samples for you. To start with right here, I have a maternity session that I did. A maternity session that I had done. And this is a golden hour, so it's absolutely beautiful. This is shot on the 85mm at 1.2 aperture. And as you can see, the bokeh in the back is absolutely beautiful. You've got nice, perfect circles, and it just turns to butter in the background. And if I zoom in here, you can see that there's a really great focus, and it's nice and clear right on their eyes there. And that's, you want to really set your subject away from the background, and this is that lens that will really capture that for you. This is another one. This one's really great because you can really see how the foreground is very buttery as well as the background, so it really isolates those subject, which is fantastic, and keeps them super crisp. And this one, it really, if you look, hold on. If we zoom in right here on this dog, like the details are absolutely insane. Like the eyes are crisp, you can see the hair on the fur, and you can see the slobber, you can see the debris in his mouth, which is just amazing. And then you still have this beautiful bokeh in the background. We have the couple in the back, and it just creates such a very clear focal point, which I think is so powerful. This one was really neat. So this is a session that I had done. This is not at golden hour. It's in the early evening before the sun's really setting down. But it's, again, like it's so smooth and buttery. Your focus is not even it's not even in question in this image. And the same here. Focus really great on the couple, super nice and crisp. And then your background is just really isolates them, makes them pop. This one was a little bit unique to this previous one because I was quite close to the subject, whereas in this one I had a reasonable distance between myself and the subject, but then there was also a reasonable distance between her and also the background. So you can see how some of this foreground here is in focus, it's in the same plane of view for her, but it's not as smooth in the background. You can still see some definition in the mountains, which is really cool, a little bit in the trees without it overpowering and taking away from the focus of her. This one I absolutely love. It's honestly, it's one of my favorite photographs because it's just so, I don't know if it's everything about it. So we've got them in the same sort of focus plane as the bike, which is really cool. So both the bike and them really pop. Again, this is photographed at 1.2 on that 85mm. So it just sets them off from that background, and it just It's beautiful, beautiful. Similar thing here, a little bit of distance. Everything that I want is in focus here, crisp enough. Like if I zoom in, you know, you're going to see some things are in detail and some are in focus, pardon me, and some things are not. But generally, because I have a little bit more distance from them, a lot more is in crisp focus, which I absolutely love with this. And then the background again sets them aside. So now let's jump into wedding days. So this is daytime overlooking the ocean. You can see this beautiful bokeh has been picked up down on the surf at the bottom, but the couple's in super clear focus. This one's actually, I love this because if you zoom in here, let me see here, we got focus really clearly on the hand and on that ring, which is lovely. But then if you come out just a little bit, you can see that already these flowers are just a little bit out of focus. So we have that really shallow depth of field without losing the quality of that photo. And it really isolates just in a very simple way of exactly what you want that the focal point of that image to be. This is a neat one. This is down in Vancouver. This is a city, so it's a little bit different than the other ones showing those trees. You can see the perfect circles in that bokeh, and this just shows a little bit how your skyscrapers can just be smooth. It's just like a buttery feel, and it really isolates the couple. Same thing here. You don't even question where that focal point's going to be. Your eye is drawn specifically to, you know, the hands right here on her waist. Overlooking the ocean, really cool. I love how it's the same thing, everything's beautiful. If we zoom in here, you can see that they're in focus, and then we've got the harbor in the background and the buildings. So it just smooths out all those lines really nicely. I typically like to mute some of my overpowering colors when I'm doing a photo shoot. And this is a really prime example of how this lens can also really help you, even if you do like photographing with strong, bold colors, is you are still isolating your subject, really having them pop, but your background, even though there is very powerful colors here, because it's so smooth and buttery, that bokeh just shines, it really takes it off, and it just allows your subject, it just allows them. It's the whole idea of doing a portrait photography is really letting your couple shine. And I think this lens is just very powerful at that without allowing those colors to overpower this. If we had a deeper depth of field and we were shooting at, say, 4.0, then you're not going to have as much smoothness back here. And then that's going to really challenge the focal point of your photo. This one, I pulled this one a little bit because I am quite a distance away. I'd probably say about 50 feet away from my subject. And it gives enough of a softness on the background, but it's not smooth and butter like some of the other images that I've shown you, but it really lets him stand out too. And this was evening, sun was setting, and I'm actually shooting at 1600 ISO at 1.6 for this, but like those lights are just absolutely beautiful, and it just, again, lets them stand right out. And so I was really challenging my lens and my camera gear here. So I'm shooting at 10,000 ISO here on my 85mm at 1.8. So if I zoom in, like there's just not much noise. I mean, you can see it when you get like stinking close, but at 10,000 ISO, I love it. Love it, love it, love it. Same thing here. This is at 6400 ISO at 85mm 1.2, but it really helps isolate that mom and her expressions and how she's just so laser focused on what's going on. Especially, like I mentioned, when I'm photographing a wedding, I really, really want to maintain the ambiance as long as possible, because as soon as you throw that flash in, it changes the look. Like you can still have that bokeh in the background, but you have much stronger lights, much harsher highlights, stronger low lights. So it changes the mood of the image, like from what the couple is actually designed their evening to be like, and then what you need and required. So at some point you are going to have to pull in that flash, and that's perfectly fine, but just something to be aware of. Something to always keep in mind if you're shooting at f1.2, you need to be sure that everything you want and are intending to be in focus is in focus, because shooting at the f1.2 to really maximize your light is one thing, but if your subject isn't in focus, you've lost the shot anyway. I don't open this lens up to 1.2 very often, because as soon as I do, you get such a very, very narrow focal point, especially if you're at any sort of angle towards what you're trying to capture. So anytime I do shoot at the 1.2, I am very, very intentional as to what it is I'm trying to capture, and I focus really clearly on that. The times that I do open it up is typically at a wedding reception when the sun's starting to go down, the lights are getting a bit lower, and I've maxed out my comfort with my ISO being bumped right up, and then have no choice to go over to flash before I lose that image quality. For example, I'll show you this image of a wedding reception because I was on an angle, like I wasn't straight on. So my focus right here, this is actually shot at the 1.6, so I could of course get a little bit closer in. So I'm going to zoom in on this guy right here. So this is the groom right here. He is in great focus, but if I wanted to capture the expression of the bride, she's lost. She's a little bit soft. So if I wanted to capture both of them, if I had changed my viewpoint over to be a little bit more head on, then I would get a little bit more distance out of that focal point. But as soon as you're on the angle, you're going to lose it. So if I'm at this direction that I'm photographing these couple, then I need to make sure that if I'm focusing on one of the groomsmen, if I'm focusing on the groom, the bride, I have to really make sure that my focus is right there, or that 1.2. And while it might get you those low light situations, it's also going to lose you the image. While there's a huge variety of images here, I scoured through many of my galleries trying to find some indoor shots for you that I've done in portraits or brides getting ready or something like that. And to be honest, there are a lot fewer than I realized there was. So this is a clear example of the long focal length, and most studios and indoor spaces really only have so much distance to work within. So if I'm in that indoor space, this is when I would typically use my 35 mil and I'd move my feet like crazy to really capture that variety that I'm after. Whereas that 85 mil, there's only so far you can get back before you hit those walls. So I think it's pretty safe to say that this is an insanely powerful lens for a wedding photographer, an engagement photographer, depending on what other cameras you're shooting with, because I wouldn't suggest the 85 mil as your primary lens. Some people have a different preference. That's just me. As soon as my getting ready photos are completed indoors, this lens is thrown on my camera, paired with either my 35 mil or my 28-70, and it's a solid lens for weddings, and I absolutely love it. I hope this has given you some insight into the entire vibe that the 85 mil lens can capture for you. It's such a powerful lens when used for the right photography style. So if you've been considering this lens, since it's such a big purchase, perhaps see if there's somewhere local that you could maybe rent it before you purchase, or someone you know that may have it, that you could just get your hands on experience, because everyone's going to like different gear just a little bit different. I may love this lens. You, whatever your situation or what other gear you're pairing it with, you may hate it and it might not be worth it for you. So definitely do your research, get your hands on it if you can. As always, I hope this video has helped you and given you some new insight into the photography world. If you'd like to be notified of my upcoming videos, I'd love if you'd hit that subscribe button. Having you here with me today makes me so grateful for you and your time. I hope you have an amazing day, and I see you next time.